It's like the ability to not hold space for the other person's emotions.
Yeah.
And when the other person's down, thinking it's a personal attack on me, I don't know where it comes from. But I certainly know that through this friendship, I'm actually learning how to be a better person in other ones.
Welcome to the Grace and Form podcast, your backstage pass into the world of movement and the stories that shape it. Hello, Saslu.
Hello, you guys weren't expecting us this week. We just snuck right in. Little special app. We couldn't help ourselves.
Mid-season special,
and it's just you and I. No guest.
Nope.
And we were talking about our friendship.
Yep.
And just the stuff that we do. Like, I come to New York, I stay with Indy often, and we'll have a cup of tea or a glass of wine and we'll sit and we'll just chat.
Yeah, and we've always wanted to basically share that chat with others because sometimes it gets really deep.
I'm like, this is beautiful.
Very helpful. Like, I feel like everything that you've told me has just helped me so much in my life. And so I wanted to share it with everybody. And I hope vice versa, maybe.
Yeah, totally vice versa. What's really unique about this episode too is I think we were both in our single era.
Yes.
When we recorded this.
That's right.
We had this momentary just freedom.
Yeah.
For ourselves. Just us.
Yeah.
And so we were talking in that way too, which I think is really fun. And it's lovely the way that you think when you're in a slightly different space in your life too.
Yeah.
And so we were giving each other advice and we've always been that for one another.
Yeah.
And we were also talking about the change in our friendship too since running a business together, which is different.
It's a very big change. It's very exciting and it's like a different dynamic to separate friendship and business.
Yeah.
Business-ship.
Yes.
I feel like that's such an important thing in life too when you become professionals, just simultaneously like next to each other. Just it's a different type of dynamic. And we talk about, our friendship, all the things that helped us heal in our journey of being single, in relationship, all the different things that have helped us in our lives and the ways that, we love each other and can show up for each other as well. I think that that's another thing of how to validate someone in your life and how to listen to someone in your life so that you can really, show up for the people that mean most to you.
Yeah. So this podcast is a testament to friendship, to business-ship.
Yep.
And I'm excited for you guys to have a listen.
It's Indy and Sassy.
Let's go.
I don't know about you, but growing up as a dancer, I lived in my leotards. I remember getting ready for class and always reaching for my favorite one, the one that made me feel confident, comfortable, and ready to take on whatever the day threw at me, whatever that may be. But finding that perfect mix of style, comfort, and durability for that sweat, that's not always easy, especially on a budget. That's why I love Discount Dance. It's been my go-to for years, and now, whether you're a beginner or a pro, you can find everything you need in one place. Leotards, tights, shoes, warm-ups, you name it. And the best part, they make it affordable, with sizes that fit every dancer. And here's a little treat just for you. Use code FORM20 at checkout to get 20% off your first order and score free shipping on orders over $50. So why wait? Head to discountdance.com and stock up on all your dance essentials today.
Hello, Indiana.
Hello, Saskia.
I don't think I've ever heard you call me Saskia.
I call you Sassy,
Sassy,
Saskia,
yeah, all the different names. I feel like this episode we kind of said was going to be about friendship and relationships. And that's what we speak about mostly in our day-to-day lives with each other. Anyways, if you and I rewind our friendship, we tell like the short story. So we don't need to do that. We do that on like every little thing. When somebody asks us how I meet, I do the spiel about how I got Hello Kitty candy. And I've been told recently that it wasn't Hello Kitty, but I'm allowed to run with that story.
Yeah, it wasn't Hello Kitty. It was French candy.
Yes. So, but Indy also gave me the permission to continue running with the Hello Kitty candy. It's my truth. I'm living it.
I looked it up and it's real.
Yeah, apparently it is. That was such a me reaction to the conversation Indy and I had, because Indy went, Sass, it wasn't Hello Kitty candy. And I went, are you sure? And she was like, I'm sure. So you were like asserting your sureness. And then I was like, well, I'm going to Google it.
Yeah.
And then I just showed it to Indiana. And
She was like, look, it's real.
It's real. And then it was just like a stalemate and a decision that I can continue the fake story if I want to. Totally. Indy will know that it wasn't Hello Kitty candy. She did buy it.
Absolutely.
But we met when we were very little. And I think that it's so lovely, those friendships, that you when you meet somebody and you then like have a lifetime. But it is interesting as well, because like there are so many friendships that I can think about that I have had, or are just like people close to me have, you know, those friendships that they grow out of, because you change as you grow older. Yeah. And we were just lucky, because even though there was definitely like patches in our friendship where like maybe it was age, going through different things at different times, maybe it was distance, a combination of the two, a combination of just the fact that like at 13 and 16 you're not necessarily set up to have a long distance friendship.
Right.
We managed to do it, and we managed to always grow in very similar ways.
Yeah, very interesting. And I feel like I think it takes a lot to build friendships. And I feel we talk about this a lot, that we put a lot of investment in our romantic relationships, you know, time and everything, and love and everything that goes with it. And that's so important. But it's nice to also know and pay attention and just mention it again, because I know it's very well known, and you know and I know, but just to repeatedly say that it's also so important to invest in your friendships.
Yeah.
And I think somehow, I don't know, we had a very special connection with our souls, I think, because obviously this wouldn't have worked because we were literally long distance best friends for 20 years.
Yeah.
Like we've never lived in the same city since we were 7 and 11.
Yeah, I think
which is
something else at play.
absurd.
For sure. Yeah.
But we've always made the biggest effort to send, you know, to spend time having conversations, respecting the space as well, and knowing that like even if we don't talk, when we do talk, you know, it feels like it was yesterday, and that we really committed to each other, because like I would visit you once a year in England, and you would visit me every time you could, wherever I was too.
Yeah, I mean, when I moved to Chicago, you came out to move me in.
Yeah.
You know, it's really amazing, because there was not a moment where I wouldn't have said like, oh, my best friend's Indiana.
Yeah.
Like even when we wouldn't go and see each other for months and years, I feel so connected to that. So I think that there's definitely something that was like on just a soul level. We were friends, but then we did make such an effort.
We did a lot of work too.
And that's paid off. And I think the interesting thing about that is like both you and I have really learned with our romantic relationships that like it always at the beginning you kind of can like lose your friendships or the depth of them, or like the closeness, I would probably say, just like the amount you see them and all those things when you're falling for somebody or whatever. But I think you and I had both been through the Rockies with different relationships we've had in our lives, and come through that with such an understanding of like how important it is to invest in those platonic ones.
Totally.
And we've done it, but like, you know, just like going out on little friend dates and actually like spending money and going on trips and doing the things that you would do with a romantic partner, with a friend, has been so instrumental to us making sure that we have like, you know, our lives and our friendships and our separate interests and all the things. Like I think that there are pillars in your life that hold you up, and potentially like one's work and one's love and one's friendship, and there's many others like spirituality and all the other things that can like hold you in your life and make sure that you feel grounded and happy when maybe one of those things falls down.
Right.
And we've always had each other, but we've also had each other to navigate like other friendships.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I think we've always been a good sounding board for that too, because it's really, I think it's difficult in life and as you get older to find like the people that are going to be there for you. And we both have like separately like our people that have been around for a while. Like we interviewed Unity on the podcast, and it's like been such a pleasure as the years have gone on, like getting to know my best friend's best friend. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Like
it's
best
like,
friend in the day, what do I call it? The Unity's work husband.
Yeah. Well, do you know what I mean? Like we both have like our very close besties outside of our friendship.
When I get to see your like I'm so excited to meet them, and like it's so special.
It's so special. And then the kind of other people that you kind of grow to become very good friends with as you get older, that meet you in a different stage of your life. It's so interesting, but it also comes with, you know, its ups and downs too.
Yeah.
It's interesting, I think, your dynamic with your friendships, because you know so many wonderful people and are so close to so many people that are at your work.
Yeah.
And I don't have the same relationship with my friends where I work with them.
Yeah.
But you work with so many of your friends. I'd say like your closest friends that you work with.
Yeah.
And it's quite interesting actually that like maybe one of your close friends outside of your work, i.e. me, is now also
Now we're
business
working
partner.
together.
Yeah, that's kind of funny.
That is funny. I never thought of that.
Yeah.
So
I used to be like the separation between any sort of job. And now I'm the thing that keeps you working even when you're not working.
that's so true.
Yeah. Do you feel like our friendship has changed, or have you learned more things about our friendship since we started working together?
I found that I'm so grateful that we started working together because we talk way more.
I know we do.
Than we ever have.
It's so nice.
When I was looking at my phone the other day, we were looking at just a reminder for you, because I know you know this, but we were looking at the data to try and see if we could move some of my storage or delete some of my storage to put more information and videos and things for Grace and Form, etc., and to use it as like a work phone. And we looked at the messages, and my phone is, I think, a quarter of it is sassy.
Yes.
Just like
just my messages.
Just messages.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's just funny. I thought to see that in my phone, but
very cute.
I feel like it's been so nice because of our open dynamic and also our constant. We have a very similar way of being constantly vocal about our appreciation for each other and being grateful, but also how we love each other so much as well, and being very patient and kind. I think because we deal with very stressful situations and in work now too. Yeah. And I haven't felt once that I have not been heard. Like when I've said, listen, I'm having a really, really tough day at work, New York City Ballet work, because I've had 12 to 7 or I'm just preparing for a hard role and I'm feeling overwhelmed a bit, or just excited with overwhelmed feelings of dreams. Yeah. And I feel like I don't have the attention span to be able to give you what I can give you today to help you in our business venture, and can I give it to you in a different way? And I feel like that's always heard. Like I feel like that's something that's changed, is that I feel like we really, really, really listen to each other. Not that we didn't before, but at a different level now. Yeah. Like a deeper level of really listening when you're speaking to me and me speaking to you, you're listening. And then there's something that's different because it's like we've gotten to this level of communication where you digest that and then you really do reply. Yeah. It's not like what you were thinking when I was talking to you, what you wanted to say in response while I was talking to you. That thing where you like, you're thinking when you're speaking. And it also happens when you're really excited to talk to somebody and you really want to share. So it's not a negative thing as well, but it's very interesting to see how helpful that is in a business venture, because then it really allows, and I think it should translate for us in our romantic relationships, because
you're so right.
We are really listening to the other person and then digesting that. And like, if you're afraid of forgetting what you have in your head, which I often do, I'm like, okay, let me write it down quickly. And then, or if I don't have time for that, I'm like, you know what, I can let that go and I'll come back another day. But it's more important for me to be present with this other person and hearing what they have to say to me, because obviously it's important. Or they just want to speak, and that's important to be respectful of that other person, just because of, being in relation with someone.
It's so interesting. And what's funny about this conversation is like Indy and I obviously haven't sat down to be like, so Indy, like, how's it been being in business with me? Like we've just been running.
Yeah, running with it. For 2.5 months.
Yeah, which is crazy because it almost feels like years.
Yeah, it feels like years.
It does.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But you're so right. It's actually taught me a lot about how I want to be in a romantic relationship.
Yeah.
Because I think what it is in romantic relationships, or at least when you get down the line with somebody and you're seeing them more regularly and you've got shared responsibilities with them,
absolutely,
you start to lose respect with what they're saying, because you want to, like, you think your opinion really matters, and you have less patience for them. I think it's patience. It's patience. And I think what it has changed in our friendship is, because now I don't just speak to you like on the one-off when we're just catching up about our lives. We are like so entangled.
Yes.
We have so many shared responsibilities.
Yes.
You have, like, it has transformed the way that I think about patience within a relationship, because it's not like I'm having to be super patient with you. It's more like I am having to go, okay, I'll hear Indy out with wherever she's at in her day.
Yeah.
Listen to it, absorb it, and be patient if like where she's at today isn't like super upbeat or positive.
Yeah.
Or if where she's at today is frustrated.
Yeah.
Or whatever it is, and not take that personally.
Yeah.
And not take that in any other way than cool. Okay,
And what it is.
and what it is, and then I continue, and we continue, and we just we make the best for every moment with where both of us are at emotionally.
Yeah.
I think what it has done is it's meant that we've had to deal with each other's emotions in a different way. Normally we just hear about them,
Totally.
but now we can be we're a part of it.
And helping each other. I don't like using the word manage, because again, it's like you want to try to control your emotions. And I feel like that's, for me, not something that I really want to venture on, controlling myself.
Yeah.
Not that I, want to be a free for all.
Yeah.
But I want to be able to feel what I'm feeling and also just sit with it, because that's usually, for me personally, the hardest thing. If I'm having a strong emotion. But another thing that is what you're saying is making me remember that's changed is that, and that's special, and it's maybe not change, it's just new because we're in this different relationship now, is that when we do have something we really want to tell each other, a lot of times we have to set aside time. And I feel like that's really cool, because it's tiring sometimes to tell people about something that's happened in your life over and over and over again that's like pretty triggering to you or traumatic. And just knowing that there's support on the other side of the phone or on the other side of the street or wherever we are, that's really helpful. And then when it's time, we let one another, be able to open up and actually speak to one another. But it's also helpful for business-wise, because we have so much to say, and usually we start our phone calls wanting to catch up because it's just natural.
Yeah.
And then I have found myself recently saying, okay, Sass, I really want to tell you about this, and I know we're starting to talk about this, but let's
do it later.
Let's do it later, and just like let's talk about everything we need to prioritize in our work right now, just because the phone call is for work, that like sometimes.
Yeah.
And
mostly now.
Yeah. But then it allows us to communicate in a way that like we can, it's not compartmentalized, but almost just,
we're showing up for the thing that we're showing up for. Like, I know when I'm showing up to like tell you everything, ask for some things, whatever, and, and then also hear what you have to say about stuff. And then I also know when it's like time for one of us to listen.
Yeah. And it can obviously we go in ebbs and flows.
Yeah. I mean, our conversations are sometimes like, I wouldn't want to be like somebody else listening. They'd be like, what is going on?
Yeah. Because it's just like going around and around and around in like different loopholes.
Yeah. We're on 20 different paths at once.
But it's interesting to see how it feels to be in this new relationship as a business partner and also like a best friend.
Yeah.
And
so it's definitely,
patience is great.
Patience is huge. I think it's definitely, and the way that relates for me for romantic relationships.
Yeah.
Is I think I'm like very quick to put however the other person's feeling onto me versus like knowing that that's them and not getting annoyed about it.
Yeah.
Like that is actually a huge thing that I have always done in romantic relationships, is like, I like to think that I'm somebody that I'm very empathetic, but I also like to think that like I can be a very positive person.
Yeah.
And this sounds really awful, unless somebody brings me down. If somebody's energy is very heavy and very negative and very whatever, like it does that to me too.
Yeah.
So I think that I can stay pretty upbeat even if I'm not feeling it quite a lot if somebody else will meet me there and continue to be there. But that's just not representative of what happens in any relationship. It's because people have their own eps and flows, and you can't say just stay positive.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen.
Base yourself off of someone else.
And you can't do that.
Yeah.
So, but what I've always found in my romantic relationships is that when somebody else is having a hard day, it frustrates me.
Yeah.
It annoys me if they say something that's a little short or whatever, snippy. In romantic relationships, it really upsets me in a way that, like, it will upset me in a friendship too, but it upsets me, and then I make a bigger deal of it.
Yeah.
Like I grow that feeling. I don't know what it is, but it's almost like acts as a catalyst for me to get out frustrations that I have with that other person.
Mm-hmm.
And what so interesting. But like having a best friend go into business, have all these shared responsibilities, what that our relationship and our new dynamic has actually taught me is that like if you were ever short with me or snippy, I just kind of like, it's what it is. It's not about me.
Yeah.
I let it go and then we move on.
Yeah.
And I don't suddenly go, Indy, like, why are you being snippy?
Yeah.
And I don't like build it and then create an argument.
Yeah.
Why would I? I respect you. I respect the space. I don't want that.
Yeah.
And it has actually really made me reflect in those small moments on actually like sometimes it's really important to let another person just be.
Yeah. And I feel like that goes as well with, you know, when you're having it reminds me exactly what you're saying. And I agree fully with that, to let someone be, because I've been confronted a lot personally with being made fun of for crying, for example, and been called the crier and like pretty put down about that my body is very special. And when I feel overwhelmed or somebody asks me something that like and then I talk and then, you know, and my body is very easy to release. And that's how I release and then come back to basically like homeostasis.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. I don't know why, but I've always had that in my life. And I fought it so much. So much. Because I've been made fun of. And then I finally, you know, over the past like, you know, 5 years or so, or 6 years. Yeah, I would say 6 years. I feel like I've come to terms with it because I really genuinely feel so much better after I have a little cry. And it's usually because I've taken on someone else's energy as well as my own, because it's not to blame somebody else's energy that I've taken on, but energy is very shared.
Yeah.
And, you know, the intensity of the city, and there's lots of things that go on in our lives that, you know, allow us to just kind of boil up or close off. And so I find crying is like really, really helpful. And being able to be given the space to cry is so helpful. And I just think that in friendships and partnerships, that space is just so crucial so that other people can, or themselves, whoever you are in that day, you can find out what's going on too.
Yeah.
You know, because we can be frustrated by others, but at the end of the day, you know, they're going through, you don't know what other people are going through.
No.
You know, and you're not in someone else's head.
No.
Ever. And unless you ask them, and even in that case, you can't be in someone else's head. You're only hearing the version that they're telling you that they know. You know, they don't probably even know in their subconscious what's going on, maybe in the dreams. But so it's a really cool thing to kind of practice space. And I've done that as well with some other friendships at work that are very close friendships. And I've noticed that, you know, we've just come closer, really, because it's not to call, you know, like when bringing up the crying, the point is that when you're told to stop crying or like, why are you crying?
Yeah.
You know, things like that, it just makes you feel even worse. And so it's a similar thing when you feel like someone is a little bit on edge around you. I feel like it's really helpful to, instead of saying, why are you so snippy with me today? Say, how are you feeling? And like, what's happened in your day? And how are you doing? And come at it at a different angle that feels a bit more gentle. Because at the end of the day, most of the times I would say, at least I know we are trying to be gentle and come with love, but it's easy to take on the energies from others or just not have the patience and want to get to the bottom of it so that you can enjoy your own day.
Yeah.
You know, instead of lending yourself to somebody else's what's going on.
Yeah.
Like really asking and hearing what's going on.
It's so true. And
it's an exchange.
It is. It is so interesting. It's actually a really unique perspective that I've only really understood actually through like the last 20 minutes, which is just that like that really truly that with friends you just don't often, and roommates is a good example as well. Actually, roommates, business partners, like you take on shared responsibilities and friendships and dynamics shift and they can teach you things.
Totally.
And genuinely those dynamics can teach you so much about the other ones that you have where like respect can be lost more easily. Romantic relationships, I think that is where two people are so close and tend to be able to say much more to each other because you're with each other all the time and the respect can kind of like be trodden down quicker. And I've learned that in my life, which is like you really have to be so much more respectful than you think, because that is one way to really ruin a relationship, is when that goes.
Yeah.
And I think through actually becoming business partners, I realized like we spend a lot more time together now.
Yeah.
We talk all the time.
Yeah.
And I will always manage our relationship with as much respect as I possibly can, because I respect you.
Yeah, me too.
And the truth is that's how most relationships start.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about this with romantic ones, because I think that I work from home a lot. I'm somebody that when I'm in a relationship, like I love spending time with that person.
Yeah, me too.
But I also know that like I have the ability to be pretty snippy. It's like, it's so funny, but I do. It's like I can definitely, like, I can do that, and I don't mean to, but I think it's just like the ability to not hold space for the other person's emotions.
Yeah.
And when the other person's down, thinking it's a personal attack on me, I don't know where it comes from, but I certainly know that through this friendship, I'm actually learning how to be a better person in other ones. And you've taught me a lot of that in our friendship, like even your ability, I think it's probably a mutual thing, but it's really shown me how to express love to friends. Like we express so much love for each other all the time.
Yeah.
Like we're constantly like, I love you.
Yeah.
I appreciate you.
Yeah.
You know,
Thank you so
vocalizing
much.
how we feel about each other. And it's so lovely. And it means that I do that with many of my other friends. Like I really do tell them how much they mean to me a lot.
Yeah.
And I think that I might be wrong, but I do think that also has given them permission to do the same thing to me.
Yeah.
They might have been those natural people in that way anyways, but I think that there's something that maybe I got from you, or we got together, or whatever, which is just about like really telling your friends how much you love them.
Yeah.
Which also creates a much better space to be vulnerable and open, because you know that like that is what you're falling down onto. Like you've got that basis of love.
Yeah.
And it has meant for me that the friendships in my life where I don't have that as much, they stick out.
Yeah.
That's been a big learning for me this year. It has been understanding that I can have different types of friends. I think the depth of our friendship and a few other friendships that I have that are so unconditional, they would love me through no matter what. I had like a tough year with other relationships in my life, and just having you and having those other friends that were there through thick and thin.
Yeah.
And then having other friends that were wonderful but just didn't want to be a part of that.
Yeah.
And having to actually adjust in my head to understanding that doesn't mean they're a terrible friend. They're just different. It's a different friend.
Yeah. I feel like expectation is such a big thing.
Huge.
I remember talking with you this year through, these tough times as well that you were going through in relationship. And what I learned in my relationships in my life, romantically and friendship wise, is, and that I still struggle with all the time, is that just managing your own expectations of the people. And just, it's not, again, manage. I have difficulty with the word because
it's used in place of a lot of things, but it's just like,
it just goes with control. And and again, like, I'm trying to not control and let go, really, is what my daily
practices.
Aspiration of each day is to let go, really, a bit. And just for myself to have a bit more room to just be. Just simply be. But expectations are interesting because they're what you've put onto another person. And so in my opinion at least, and I feel that when you're able to have a conversation with someone, or rather be able to understand the friendship that you have with them, and like really sit and just like think about like how have they shown up for you, and how have they been a friend to you, and like really reflect on that. And then you can form realistic expectations. And I found that that's really been helpful to be able to be in those relationships and not be angry or not be frustrated, because it's just, if you're expecting something of someone and you say, for example, I love you, and they don't say it back, just simply that, much more complicated than that, but that can be hurtful or cause some insecurity or, things like that. But then if maybe that wasn't what the other person wanted to say to you in that moment, you can't control what they're going to do.
This podcast is an extension of our app, Grace and Form, where we bring ballet classes and ballet-inspired movement practices to you from beginner to pro, so everybody and everybody can experience our love of dance in their own home.
Absolutely, and we want to share everything that makes us feel amazing with you, and you don't even need a studio, and that's what's so wonderful about it. You can feel good anywhere.
So download the app, get a 7-day free trial, come move with me and Indy and some of our wonderful guests and incredible teachers.
We can't wait to see you.
So I think just being respectful of your feelings, yourself, respectful of the other person, and not putting your expectations on another person. It's just like when you think someone is thinking ill of you and you're insecure all of a sudden, when in reality they're, I'm sure, concerned with something else. Yeah, completely.
You know,
it's such a good point, because it's like that understanding expectations of friends, and then also or anyone that you have a relationship with, and then understanding that like it's okay to not have the same. I think somebody once described it as like a makeup bag. It's like there's it all makes up the picture, and you can have those friends that are like fun to go and have a drink with and catch up with. But then actually just letting go of all the other expectations. Like if they haven't shown up for you in the way that other friends have, that's just them. That's fine. And it doesn't mean anything on you.
Yeah, and there's different kinds of people. Like I think we get into habits of thinking that there's just, or I don't know, maybe people think this, but I've certainly in, relationships where I've given a lot, because that's just how
you're a giver.
And I love doing that. Yeah. That's how I express my love, and I don't necessarily need it back. But every once in a while, I would get like I'm like, oh no, I didn't know that this person wasn't reciprocating that with me, and it's so sad.
Yeah.
But then you kind of just like grieve whatever you need to grieve that you feel.
Yeah.
And then just realize like that's so cool to be able to be like, that's okay.
Yeah.
I still love this person so much, and I'm going to say whatever I want to say, but I'm just so happy to be in relation with this other person in the way that I can be. Yeah. Like there's so many different ways of being in a relation, and I feel like we have so many examples that are just so cookie cutter, straight shot, and like, like a charm bracelet, just like the little links, like perfect molds of friendships that we've been told.
Yeah.
And we've learned from, society and TV shows and movies and all these things. But there's just such a huge array of so many like types of relationships, and what those look like are just, it's very different. It's like a rainbow.
Yeah.
And there's no similar relationship. There's no exactly the same relationship to another relationship.
They're all,
and that's what's so beautiful.
It's true. And I think that like one of the wonderful things that I've really learned is how much they can show you about yourself as well, and teach you to be a kinder, more gentle human being to yourself and to others. Like
totally,
it's such a practice, and I think it comes with age. And I know that I'm far from perfect with the way that I show up in relationships, but I think that every year or every experience brings me a new understanding of like what my own things are.
Yeah.
And people can be an amazing mirror.
Yeah. It's incredible. And things that you get frustrated by, I always say this to you, but I'm always so fascinated by it, that things that like really irritate you, usually it's something that's in yourself that you don't like about yourself.
Yeah.
Seeing in someone else, or that you didn't even know you had in yourself. But whenever I feel like someone's told me they're really irritated by this other person, I always say, in my experience, when I felt really irritated by just even a simple action, I go back and I'm like, why did I feel so irritated about that? And I'm like, I think maybe I have this same thing that I do, that I don't like that I do it, but I'm receiving it from this other person. It's in my face, and I'm like, I gotta change that.
Yeah.
Or just be aware of it, rather.
Yeah.
And then once you're aware of it, it just automatically changes.
So true. I think that both you and I think we're both comfortable chatting and knowing that like our words may land in a space that really resonates for people that might be listening. But we're also quite private too.
Yeah.
We have this I think both of us have this interesting like push and pull.
Yeah.
But I think that we have both shared this weirdly unique scenario over the course of the last few years in our romantic relationships where we've had to really go through a lot that has made us understand ourselves more.
Totally.
What do you think? And I'll be really interested just from your own learnings and from like the depths of emotions that the process of going in and out of relationships can bring. What has it taught you about like what you want for yourself, whether it's romantically or just like what you want to work on for yourself so that you're a happier, more peaceful human being?
In relationships or in yourself?
Well, I think they're probably intertwined, aren't they? Yeah. In relationships and for yourself.
Yeah. I guess the biggest thing for me that I've gotten and that I'm being a bit confronted or put in front of at the moment in my life, in my journey of understanding myself outside of relationship and inside a relationship, and that I've been talking to my therapist with, as I feel that I am very easy to, when I'm starting to feel vulnerable, that I feel all of a sudden so afraid and so fearful. And it's vulnerability because I feel so much love usually.
Yeah, you're a lover.
I'm a lover. You are. I can't help it.
Can't help it.
See my face when
I'm saying for those that are just listening and not watching this, like Indy's face is showing that she's a lover.
So,
she has big emotions.
Yeah, I got big emotions. So I feel that when I do feel vulnerable and love and things like that, I just kind of immediately enter a insecure state. And it's such an interesting thing because then I doubt my actions.
Yeah.
And I find that it's such a sweet, silly, kind of childish thing, that just shows you that you really care.
Yeah.
Honestly. And that's like I'm only actually thinking this now that we're talking about it. And that's such a nice way of thinking of it because I was putting myself down.
Yeah, you're putting a lot of pressure on yourself.
Yeah, same.
Because one of the things that I've found really inspiring about you in this space of like being a single woman, 30 years old, so very young, but also with some experience.
Yes.
Is how open you are to the world about being completely you.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? As in like,
yeah.
I was explaining it to a friend recently and I was like, as a single person, for me, I'm like, I'm pretty witty. I like my texts are quite like, I'll think about them for a very long time and I like craft them pretty perfectly. And actually that's part of the fun. That's been part of the fun of being single.
That's something you love.
Oh yeah, I laugh at my own jokes. Yeah. Actually, that's been the best part of being single is like, it doesn't even matter who I've met. It's really more just being like me making myself laugh with my text.
That's good.
Genuinely, best part. I've been dating myself essentially. But I think that what's been so wonderful, and I always really respect this about you in general, is you are so yourself. Like Indy will send 50 emojis, 29 exclamation marks. She will send like the longest ha-has. And what I love about that so much is it's just like, whereas you have many insecurities about things that you'll openly talk about.
Yeah.
One thing I do think, even if later you have this like childlike thing of like thinking about what you're doing and your actions, you're very comfortable in your own skin, even in its like uncomfy states. You know who you are, and you like those things about you.
Yeah, and thank you very much for saying that. It's very sweet of you, but I've worked, I think, a lot on it. And I feel like I'm very grateful for the work that I've done with my therapists and because I've had multiple and myself and, the support that I've had around me. Obviously, it's very important to be in relation with friends and partners and family and things like that that have helped me a lot. But I feel like something that's really important is that we talk about a lot is to have patience with ourselves. And I think it just takes time.
Totally.
Really, because like I'm just getting to 30, I know it's for, can sound old, can sound young. Whatever
so crazy
perspective you're in.
Yeah, it totally depends where you're at in life.
It totally depends where you're at. But I think what I've found most interesting in my experience is that I don't want to be fake to anybody and I don't want to put on anything.
Yeah.
And I think that's how it seems like I'm really comfortable in my skin is because I've actively made the effort to when I when I'm about to send a message and I think all of a sudden I'm like, wow, I typed a lot of hearts here.
Yeah.
Then I'm like, yeah, that's what I typed.
That's what I
So I'm
typed.
gonna send it. That was my gut, leading with the gut.
Yeah.
And my dad's helped me a lot with that, with leading with the gut, because the gut does not lie to you. Ever.
Oh gosh, I've had issues with that.
Yeah, and it's hard.
When you're going against the fact that
you're
you know
going
what your gut
against
is telling you.
and you can feel it in your tummy, and your mind takes over, and you contradict yourself a lot. And I mean, that's very normal, I think, for everybody, really, that we try to go against our gut. But I think listening to your gut and just being as doing the exercise every time you catch yourself feeling like you've done something that's like very you, and then all of a sudden you feel kind of ashamed about it.
Yeah.
Why do you feel that way?
Yeah.
Were you not being your authentic self in that moment? Or were you and you're afraid to show that? And then going forward with, diving into that fear.
Yeah.
Because I think that's helpful. Like every time you step into that, it becomes more habitual to not be apologetic about yourself.
Yeah, I've also loved some of our interactions because you really made me reflect, where I've been like, Indy, you're sending so many emojis. Why don't you be like, yeah, because I'm sending them. Yeah. And then I've suddenly realized that I'm judging what you're doing. And that's been a really interesting, understanding for me, where I'm like, that's so weird of me. Well, why do I have a stake in this?
Yeah.
And why do I think she should do what I would do? Such an interesting moment as a human being.
Yeah.
You're projecting, judging for no reason. And why?
Yeah.
And why?
And why?
And why? Let her send the fifth heart.
Yeah.
Let her.
That's probably how she's feeling.
That's how she's feeling. She wants that extra one. Why do I think it's too much?
Yeah. I feel,
It's so interesting. All these little things that we can do, and it all comes back to just awareness.
Yeah.
But it is so interesting. And I love that sentiment of you told yourself to do that. Why don't you want to be you?
Yeah.
That was something you did.
Yeah. And there's, and there's obviously something behind that, that's interesting to dig deep into. And sometimes writing is very helpful.
Yeah.
Just exploding on a page, basically, and just, free writing and not making it structured. That's almost sometimes the first place where you can start to try to be your most authentic self, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because when I started doing that, I found myself being like, oh my God, I never want to read this. I'm not spelling anything right. The punctuations are terrible. And then I was like, who's going to read this?
Yeah.
I'm not even going to read this. So why am I judging myself, immediately? And it's those little exercises that really help you I think it just takes little steps to be able to feel the freedom to just be yourself too. Because it really is a habit, I think, as well, that we get into, that we're critical of ourselves. Learned, maybe someone's put it on us.
Yes. I was actually weirdly about to ask you, has there ever been anything in a relationship? I think it was probably because I was thinking about if there's been something in one I've been in where somebody's told you are a certain way and you've been really no. And then out of the relationship, you're like, I see it now.
Well, yes, definitely. Yeah. I think that I've definitely been told that I'm an emotional person.
Yes.
And in a negative way a lot of the times. And so I was kind of ashamed of it.
Yeah.
And coming out of, just being myself and reflecting on it and coming to terms with myself too, I find that I'm definitely an emotional human being. And I don't know why there's negative connotations around that, because we're human.
Yeah.
And you can have emotions.
We can flip the script. We just did before this podcast.
Yeah.
I just said to you, I basically was telling you that you're an emotional person, but I didn't say it like that.
No.
I said you take on a lot of people's emotions.
Yeah.
It's not good for you.
Yeah.
Because I can see how much it weighs on you.
Yes.
I wonder if there's a way that we could figure out a way for you to take it off a little bit.
Yeah.
Take the load off.
That's definitely something that's interesting to kind of when you go out of relation, to see what's been put on you in relation.
Yeah.
In whatever type of relationship you've been in. But can I ask you the same question, please?
It's so interesting. I was thinking about it. I don't know why. And I was thinking, I think I'm learning a lot recently, just because of my overall life's learnings of the last year. I think that I was in a relationship for years that I had so many wonderful times in, but also there was a lot that was hard and that weighed on me a lot, and I felt really heavy.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of what that weight did was kind of, it made me forget two things. One, to be my own person. It wasn't that, and it was an active choice. It wasn't the other person in the relationship that was like telling me not to be me.
Yeah.
I think the reason he was with me is because he loved me.
Yeah.
Probably the biggest supporter.
Yeah.
But I just started to, because the weight of it, I just started to kind of lose my outside interests other than the relationship and my work and my key friends. Like I wasn't building a life in different ways. Like it became so much about the relationship and how, and that made me put so much pressure on it.
Yeah.
And in turn, it really made me, like I was saying to you earlier, like be upset with even the smallest little dig or whatever, because he was having a stressful day or whatever. Like it just meant that
you've already built up so much pressure that every little thing is the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, exactly. It just made me feel like every little thing was I was almost nervous that it would be the next argument. So like I would kind of help be a participant in creating it.
Yeah.
And I was like, in that relationship, like, you know, there was many things I think that we told ourselves, which happens when a relationship is like rocky, right? Like you're this and I'm this. And I think the thing that I did find really hard to know was that I was a pretty judgmental person.
Yeah.
Like, and I didn't like that at all. And the reason I didn't like it is because I think I knew it was true.
Yeah.
Like, actually, it's so interesting because I do judge, but it's a very Virgo thing of me, I think. Just only because I want like the best for the other person.
Yeah.
And I think that it's like almost understanding that your opinion and the way that you think things should be done, like isn't the only way.
Yeah.
Like my sister and I talk about this all the time that and I'm gonna get it wrong, and my brother-in-law and my sister will listen to this. But one of the two of them, and I think that it's my sister.
Yeah.
She'll like get involved with like, or maybe it's my brother. Who knows? One of them. So neither of them's gonna come across bad because it could be either of them. But Sadie was saying that like they have a dynamic where like one of them will get involved with the other person's email, and they'll be like, no, say it like this. No, you should really say it like this. And it like puts the other person down a peg because it's like you can't just let them breathe and do it the way that they're gonna do it. And that perfectly summed up the judgment that I think I brought to both the significant relationships that I've had in my life, where I have loved the other person a huge amount, but I've also projected what I think is best onto the relationship.
And do you feel like that could be control?
Yeah, it is. It's a control of like, I don't think it's a control of them as much as it's like a control over like the narrative of like how it's seen.
Yeah.
Or like what happens. Or I just think that my way is the better way.
Yeah.
And like sometimes like a good example in our working relationship would be if you're sending a work email.
Yeah.
And to be fair, I will be like, oh, I think you should say that because it is work. Like there's a certain point where I would stop. Yeah. Because I know that it's your voice, you're saying it in the way that you want to say it, and you're going to send it.
Yeah.
But it's like if you wrote an email and I constantly was like, oh no, change that, change this, change the other, change that. We do have that in our relationship a lot just because we're trying to figure out what to say to the person or like the people we're emailing. But if you're doing that to like the other person when they're emailing like your landlord, like, you know, there's some things, just drop it, leave it.
It's difficult. That's definitely a difficult dynamic for sure. And I feel like what's interesting, what makes me think of when you speak about our relationship in that way is that I feel like because I personally, that doesn't feel like my strongest suit, like professional emails.
Yeah.
You know, grammar and things, just because I've, again, been pretty much put down and made fun of in my whole life about it. Yeah. So I've become quite insecure about it, even though I'm perfectly capable of writing, you know, work email. Yeah. But I'm learning to not mind help. And I think that that's also why our relationship works very well, because we balance each other out in a very interesting way that is very almost like puzzle pieces.
Yeah, because I do think that's the thing is I was thinking about it as I said this. I think I kind of read the room with you and it's like that is actually quite appropriate there. Like because I'm helping you,
and I'm always like,
and you'll also sometimes push back and be like, I'm not saying that, but I will say this.
Yeah,
and I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to fight that.
But that also helps. You know, you're helping me find my voice in that way.
Yeah, so it is cool. It is cool and maybe a bit different. But I think that in romantic relationships, I definitely know that I have maybe been like judgmental when I don't need to be, or like sometimes yes, there is room for judgment, but one, just to keep it to yourself.
Yeah,
like, you know, you didn't like the way that this person said that to the other person, he was a little rude, he was a little whatever. Like, it wasn't a big deal.
Yeah.
Why make it a big deal?
Yeah.
Your mum's best friend, Karen's, who literally has, like, it's so lovely. When I'm in New York, very often, Indy's mum, Mandy, and her best friend Karen will also be here, and we'll go to dinner, the four of us, and it's like this heavenly, like, generations of best friends.
Yeah.
Like, we have, like, such a giggle. We talk about everything. They give us advice on all of our crazy little situations.
Yeah, they've been friends. My mom and her best friend have been friends since, I think, like, kindergarten or like first grade or something.
And they're so funny. They, like, it's like almost hilarious because Indy and I, although this conversation's gone down something more, we laugh the whole time. Yeah, they're always laughing. They are laughing way more than we are.
Way more.
We're literally there, like, we feel so serious.
They talk every single day.
I know, and they talk so much too.
They do not have a business together.
No, that's
but
probably,
they could.
They could. I'm sure they could. But we go and we will tell them about stuff. And Karen, who just has like a life of experience and so many wise words.
So wise.
Said to me, actually said to Indy, and Indy passed it to me, and then I spoke to Karen about it because I was like, these words have transformed my life, which is like, two things. One, don't worry twice. Huge for me.
Always say that one. Thank you, Ka.
Don't worry twice.
Don't worry twice. Why are you going to worry twice?
Why
you don't even know.
To?
You don't even know what's going to happen.
Yeah. So that one's just really good in general in life. But the one for a relationship that's really helped me is like, don't make things bigger than they need to be.
Yeah.
I was like, a big one. Wow.
Yeah, take a breath. Take a big breath, you know?
Yeah, just like, and also the lesson I really learned recently is to drop things when they're done.
Yeah.
Like huge for me in a relationship setting. Less again for friendships because like I just seem to naturally be a better self in them. Like I don't let myself go to the places of my character I'm less proud of in friendships. But in a relationship, there definitely may be moments where I think it's just like you're trying to like get out other things that like have been bothering you, and it's like, you know, like the person's kind of gone, oh, I'm sorry, you're right, and you're not quite ready to drop it.
Yeah,
you know that feeling when you're like, I'm still annoyed.
Yeah.
Wow, just going like, actually, don't make it bigger than it needs to be. And I got the apology for that.
Yeah, and also saying like, what I found in relationships in that sense, in a similar sense, is that sometimes it takes me a minute to recover from an argument or from a disagreement of some sort, or, you know, an intense conversation that was a bit combative or something in words. And that's okay. And to be able to say like, I'm good. I just need some space to be able to just process this, or just sit with it, not process, even not do anything, just sit. And I can't expect myself to just like pop right up and be like super happy, you know, and like move forward.
Yeah.
And to be okay with giving yourself that time.
Yeah.
You know, and that's like the perfect example is like just making things not as big of a deal as they are. You can even see it in that way, that it's not even a big, like, you're gonna let it go, but then also just vocalizing and saying I need a bit of space to just, or I just need some grace to, and want to give you the information that I'm not feeling my absolute best at the moment, and don't worry, you don't need to do anything at all, but I'm just letting you know that you can't expect anything of me right now, and I'm not expecting anything of myself.
Yeah.
And then it's like, once you give yourself that, I feel like you can move forward past this argument or let it go. Like, you genuinely let it go.
Yeah, actually properly. And it's really, I actually feel in the last year, and I think both of us probably, like, this is what I love about Indy and I's conversations, because this is genuinely like, I don't feel any different from when we like have a glass of wine or like a coffee in the morning or at the end of the day. Yeah. We're, like, having these conversations, and this is genuinely where it goes. I think both of us feel that we have learned so much in the last year or two of our lives.
Yeah.
And it's quite a pleasure to like dump it on the other person.
It's so interesting because we can also learn from each other. And even though like we've had quite somehow parallel lives, which is very, very, very peculiar in the spaces we've been in, but we've been able to learn from each other's mistakes, achievements, you know, kind of just life, like just learn.
Yeah, it's
just
so true.
I guess the curiosity, it's very interesting to be curious with your best friend.
Yes.
You know, and also I think be curious with your partner and just be curious. I think that's such a nice thing, like a continuous passion of wanting to learn.
Yeah, I think so too.
You know,
I think that we could talk about this for hours and hours, and it could be kind of nice because I feel like we really do have so many big things and thoughts and that we've learned through our friendships and our relationships. Maybe just like pull out two that you feel like, if you can think about them, I can go first as well. Like 2 things that you really learnt or you want to improve upon for yourself, or that are just good thoughts.
Okay, let me think. I think 2 things that we've definitely touched on are definitely what is it called? Expectation.
Huge.
I think I've learned that a lot, and it's given me a lot of peace, which is another thing that I found, very helpful in relationships. But expectations are very interesting because, usually you think that it has to do with the other person, but it's always, totally has to do with yourself.
Yeah.
And like maybe what you're lacking in yourself, like what you're lacking in giving yourself. So that's been very interesting to kind of understand a bit more expectation and see like not only what you're lacking in yourself, but also what you might feel you might want in a relationship that isn't presenting itself in whatever relationship you're in, but it's something that you really, really feel like you need. And that's totally okay.
Yeah.
That might just mean that you're not in the right place with the right person at the right time.
Yeah.
And that's okay. And then another thing that I found very helpful in relationships is just like, I feel like it's not like, sounds weird to say give forgiveness, but it's almost just like giving patience, love, forgiveness, grace, all those things at once with like a deep breath. Because I feel like we tend to, I can't speak for others, but I tend to hold my breath if I'm talking about something quite intense, or if I'm in an argument, and which is natural. It's like your body is reacting.
Yeah, I can tell with you when you're feeling things because what happens is you speak quicker because you have a less, I don't have shallow breath.
Exactly.
It's these intricacies that make me a better business partner because I'm like, oh, she's annoyed.
But it's like, so interesting because it's like, I didn't even know I did that.
Yeah.
Like, you're telling me that now, where I feel like that actually genuinely helps me. And now you've proved that obviously it does because I literally am not getting oxygen.
No, you're not. And then so like, you speak quick. Speak quicker. I'm like, and then that's when I'm like, interesting. I just like don't rebuttal. I just go like, interesting.
Yeah, you're like, okay, she's having a day. But yeah, I think those 2 things, like, I mean, I think there's so many more.
Yeah. Oh my God. And this is what we'll probably do as we leave the podcast studio.
Yeah, we'll want to have mentioned so many other things that maybe we're more positive too. Yeah. But I would say the things that I've learned most recently are expectation and taking a breath and a beat to be able to just be in yourself. And also just like see where you're at. Yeah. Because I think it's so easy to, for me, I always want to help and make sure the other person is okay. And so sometimes I'll take away from myself or like focusing on what I'm feeling when we're having this discussion. So it's interesting to just take a beat and realize, how do you feel?
Yeah.
It's not like going and just like worrying about yourself and being selfish, just like genuinely, how are you feeling so that you can have the space to help another person or talk to another person.
Totally.
What are yours?
I think like apologizing or just being very real with where you're at quicker. So like just really overall realizing that like when you're having a conversation with another person, if it's an argument or something that's a little bit more tense, like just knowing what you want the outcome to be. Like, do you want the outcome? Like there's really only 2 outcomes to most arguments, like fight or flight, or you just kind of make a resolution, come together and become closer. Like either there is like you're trying to win or you're trying to work it out together and become a closer team, whether it's friendships or romantic. And actually really knowing that going into things, like even if you feel like the other person is being very unreasonable, like just knowing what, like how do you want this conversation to be in an hour's time? Like are you having this conversation because you want to just get a little bit of understanding and move forward? Or are you having it because you're trying to like vent and somehow win because you have all these other larger feelings at play?
Yeah, I totally love that because I remember you telling me that when you first felt that. And I was like, wow, I feel like that was such an interesting thing to really think about, because you don't think about it when you're in an argument because you're so overcome with
You're trying to win.
you're coming.
And it's hard if the other person also has that perspective of like they're trying to win the conversation in some way. But I think that if you can have really good conversations before you're in a tense moment about like what, when you get into an argument, what do you want to get through with it? You know, you want to be together. Like ultimately, if it's a relationship or a very close friendship, like the outcome is going to be that you continue.
Yeah.
So get there quicker. Like just know that actually, like we're having this conversation because somebody's feeling something and somebody's feeling the other thing, and we really just want to compromise it to be able to move forward.
Yeah.
Hear each other, even if we slightly disagree. It's love. We want to move forward. We want to be okay. We want to make good. So I think to get there quicker and to know that quicker is really good.
I love that.
And in the process of that, actually understanding what the other person needs to get there quicker. And if it's space for a minute in order to cool down, actually letting them have that, because we all process things differently. And the other thing that I've really learned recently is like being more vocal about the thing, like being more grateful. I'm a very grateful person to my friends, but romantically, just being more grateful and not taking anything for granted, and really being treating other people in the way that I want to be treated. And I do that with all my friendships, and I historically do that with romantic ones too. But it's just like really realizing again that it is so important to take the steps that you would like for somebody to take with you too, and knowing as well that like maybe they want something different. Like I am a very like touchy-feely person, and I love also quality time, and I also love acts of service. Acts of service is my number one love language. Just gonna say it's so unsexy, like romantic, but it is. So I'll cook people dinner. I will go to you tell me I need to pick up Luna from the theatre to take her back home, so we go, yeah, I'm doing it because I love you. Like that is, I think we share the same kind of like love language in that way. But also realizing like I might do a bunch of things to somebody and they might just want me to be like, love you.
Yeah.
Like just showing, basically really, I think the biggest one for me is like actually understanding how I need to show up for the other person.
Yeah.
In the friendship
the other person
or the relationship.
Yeah.
And I think that it's amazing how friendships can help you actually develop the skills for romantic ones too.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's been such an interesting conversation. I've learned a lot, and we've really discussed things about our own friendship that it's been really interesting.
Yeah.
We just haven't had the opportunity yet.
Yeah. And Luna's obviously ready to go outside.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to the Grace Informed podcast. This episode was produced by Indiana Woodward, Megan Elsie McNally, and me, Saskia Gregson-Williams, and edited by Megan Elsie McNally. This season of the podcast was sponsored by our partners at Discount Dance. If you're really loving the show, it would be wonderful if you take a moment to rate and review us. It helps other ballet lovers find our pod and lets us bring you even more episodes. And of course, don't forget to subscribe.
Have thoughts, questions, or topics you'd like us to explore? You can find us on all social media platforms as Grace and Form Studio. Drop us a message. If this episode has got you itching to move, oh, do we have the app for you. Download the Grace and Form app today and start your 7-day free trial. Whether you're a seasoned dancer or just starting out, there are ballet classes and dance-inspired workouts for everyone, no matter the level. Come join our community of dance lovers and experience the joy of movement for yourself. Again, thank you so much for listening, and until next time, take a deep breath in, be gentle with yourself, and always keep moving forward.